Marcus Chun stepped off the transport ship and felt his breath catch in his throat. The Zephyrian palace stretched before him like something from a dream. Towers of blue crystal reached toward the purple sky, and walls made of what looked like frozen light sparkled in the alien sun. He had seen pictures, but nothing prepared him for the real thing. "Ambassador Chun," a voice said behind him. Marcus turned to see a tall Zephyrian official walking toward him. The alien's skin shimmered with colors that changed as he moved, and his large compound eyes reflected the palace lights like jewels. "I am Torvis, the palace coordinator. Her Majesty Queen Veltara waits for you." Marcus straightened his dark blue diplomatic uniform and picked up his briefcase. This was the most important mission of his career. Earth needed this peace treaty with the Zephyrian Empire. Without it, the trade wars that had been going on for 3 years would continue, and both sides would suffer. "Thank you," Marcus said. "I'm ready." Torvis led him through corridors that seemed to glow from within. Other Zephyrians moved past them, their footsteps making soft chiming sounds on the crystal floor. Marcus noticed how they all walked with their heads held high, their movements graceful and controlled. Everything about this place spoke of an ancient, proud civilization. They stopped before enormous doors that opened without anyone touching them. Beyond was a throne room that took Marcus's breath away. The ceiling disappeared into darkness far above, and the walls were covered in patterns that seemed to move when he wasn't looking directly at them. On a throne made of what looked like solid starlight sat Queen Vel single quotes Terra. Marcus had studied everything. Earth's intelligence services knew about her, but seeing her in person was different. She was tall, even for a Zephyrian, with skin that shifted between silver and deep blue. Her compound eyes were larger than normal for her species, and they seemed to look right through him. She wore robes that flowed like water, and a crown of crystal that floated just above her head. "Ambassador Chun," she said, and her voice had a musical quality that made Marcus think of wind chimes. "Welcome to Zephyros. I trust your journey was comfortable?" Marcus bowed in the Earth diplomatic style. "Your Majesty, thank you for agreeing to these negotiations. The United Earth government hopes we can find a path to peace." The Queen studied him for a long moment. Marcus felt like she was reading his thoughts, which was impossible. Zephyrians were telepathic, but Earth scientists had confirmed they couldn't read human minds. Their brain structure was too different. "Please, sit," the Queen said, gesturing to a chair that appeared from the floor. "We have much to discuss." The formal negotiations began immediately. Marcus presented Earth's proposals for ending the trade disputes, while Queen Veltara listened with an expression he couldn't read. Other Zephyrian officials stood around the throne, their own faces equally blank. But as the hours passed, Marcus noticed something strange. Every time he mentioned human customs or talked about Earth culture, the Queen's attention sharpened. When he explained how human families worked or described Earth holidays, she leaned forward slightly. "Tell me more about this concept of home," she said during a break in the formal discussions. Humans seem to attach great meaning to specific places. Marcus was surprised by the question. It wasn't related to the trade negotiations at all. "Well, Your Majesty, home isn't just a place for humans. It's where we feel safe and loved, where our families are. Many humans will travel across the galaxy, but they always want to return home." The Queen's eyes seemed to grow brighter. "And family? This is important to humans?" "Very important. We have a saying, blood is thicker than water. It means family bonds are stronger than other relationships. Parents will do anything to protect their children, and children always remember their parents' love." Something flickered across the Queen's face. If she had been human, Marcus would have said she looked sad. But that was impossible. Zephyrians didn't show emotions the way humans did. "Fascinating," she said softly. "On Zephyros, we form mental bonds instead of these emotional connections you describe. It is more efficient, but perhaps... She trailed off, then straightened. We should continue with the treaty discussions. The rest of the day passed in formal talks about trade routes and shipping rights. Marcus presented Earth's terms clearly, and the Queen asked intelligent questions. But he kept noticing the palace staff acting strangely around him. Guards would start to speak to each other, then stop when they saw him coming. Servants hurried past with their eyes down. Several times, Marcus caught Zephyrian staring at him from across the room, only to look away quickly when he noticed, most puzzling of all, when the Queen showed him to his guest quarters. She personally led him through parts of the palace that seemed more private. They passed doors marked with symbols Marcus recognized as meaning family and private chambers. "Your rooms are here," the Queen said, stopping before a door decorated with Earth symbols. The room beyond was beautiful, with furniture that looked almost human in design. Large windows showed a view of gardens where alien flowers glowed in the growing darkness. "This is very kind, Your Majesty," Marcus said. "But aren't these quarters quite close to the royal family wing?" The Queen paused. For just a moment, her careful control seemed to slip. "I thought you might be more comfortable here, away from the noise of the main guest halls." She turned to leave, then stopped. "Ambassador Chen, may I ask you something personal?" "Of course, Your Majesty." "Have you ever loved someone you could never be with? Someone whose world was so different from yours that being together would be impossible?" The question caught Marcus completely off guard. He thought of Sarah, the research partner he had lost 5 years ago. Not to death, but to the vast distances between the stars. She had taken a position on a colony world, and he had stayed on Earth to pursue his diplomatic career. "Yes," he said quietly. "I have." The Queen nodded slowly. "Then you understand that some sacrifices feel necessary at the time, but later, you wonder if they were worth the pain they caused." Before Marcus could ask what she meant, Queen Veltara glided away down the crystal corridor. Marcus stood in his doorway, watching her disappear into the shadows, and wondered what secrets lay behind those unreadable compound eyes. That night, as he tried to sleep in the alien bed, Marcus found himself thinking about the Queen's questions. Why was she so interested in human emotions and family bonds? And why did he have the strange feeling that this negotiation was about much more than trade agreements? Outside his window, the alien night was filled with soft music that seemed to come from the palace itself. Marcus listened to the haunting melodies and wondered what tomorrow would bring. The next evening, Queen Veltara invited Marcus to dine with her privately. This was unusual for Zephyrian diplomacy, where meals were normally formal affairs with many officials present. Marcus found himself in a smaller room with walls that showed moving pictures of alien landscapes. "I hope you don't mind the informality," the Queen said as they sat at a table that adjusted its height to accommodate both human and Zephyrian proportions. "I find formal dinners tedious when I want to actually learn about someone." Marcus took a bite of the food before him. It looked strange but tasted surprisingly good, like a mix between earth vegetables and something sweet he couldn't identify. "This is delicious, Your Majesty." "What is it?" "A traditional dish from our northern regions. But please, call me Veltara when we're alone." All this, Your Majesty, makes conversation feel like work. Marcus looked up, surprised. Zephyrian queens never dropped their titles, not even with their closest advisors. "Are you sure that's appropriate?" Veltara's skin shifted from silver to a warmer gold color. "I visited your Earth once, Marcus. May I call you Marcus? I learned that humans value genuine conversation over rigid protocol." The fork nearly slipped from Marcus's hand. "You visited Earth? When?" "Our diplomatic records don't show any official visits from Zephyrian royalty." "It wasn't official," Veltara said quietly. 5 years ago. My ship had technical problems during a scouting mission near your solar system. I spent some time on your world while repairs were made. Marcus felt a strange chill run down his spine. 5 years ago. The same time Sarah had left for her colony assignment. The same time his research station had been isolated in the mountains, far from any major cities. "Where on earth did you stay?" he asked, trying to keep his voice casual. "A remote area. Mountains covered in snow. There was a small research station where a human helped me hide from your authorities. He was..." She paused, her skin shifting to deeper blue tones. "He was kind to me, patient. He taught me about human emotions and family bonds." Marcus's heart started beating faster. Snow-covered mountains. A research station. It couldn't be coincidence. "This human," Marcus said carefully. "What was he studying?" "Climate patterns. Weather systems." He showed me how humans try to understand their world by watching and learning, rather than simply connecting with it mentally like we do. It was fascinating. Marcus set down his fork. His research station had been the only one in that mountain range 5 years ago. He had been studying climate patterns, working alone after his partner had taken a job off-world. "Voltara," he said, "what did this human look like?" The Queen's large eyes focused on him intently. Dark hair, brown eyes, medium height for a human. He had a scar on his left hand from a laboratory accident when he was young. She tilted her head. He had a way of explaining complex things in simple words. And he was lonely. I could sense that about him, even though I couldn't read his thoughts. Marcus looked down at the thin white scar across his left palm, where a piece of broken equipment had cut him during his graduate studies. His mouth felt dry. "You're describing me," he whispered. Voltara went very still. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the soft humming of the palace around them. "I wondered," she said finally, "when I saw your name on the diplomatic roster. Marcus Chun, climate researcher turned ambassador. But I told myself it was impossible. The universe couldn't be that cruel or that kind." Marcus stared at her, memories flooding back. The crashed ship he had found in the valley below his station. The injured alien woman he had helped, never knowing she was royalty. 3 months of secret conversations by the fire, while snow blocked the mountain passes. The way she had asked endless questions about human culture and emotions. "You called yourself Vira," he said. "You told me you were a scout, nothing more. I couldn't tell you the truth. If your people had known they were harboring a Zephyrian queen, it would have caused an incident. And if my people had known I was being protected by a human..." She trailed off. "You left without saying goodbye," Marcus said, and he couldn't keep the old hurt out of his voice. "One morning you were just gone." Voltara's skin flickered between colors rapidly, a sign of emotional distress in Zephyrians. The rescue ship arrived early. My advisors said we had to leave immediately. I wanted to wake you, but they said any delay could expose you to danger from both our governments. Marcus remembered that morning. He had woken to find the hidden cave empty, her ship gone. For weeks, he had wondered if he had imagined the whole thing. Then the pain had set in, and he had thrown himself into his work to forget. "I looked for you," Marcus admitted. "After that, I mean. I tried to find information about Zephyrian scouts, but everything was classified. And I watched Earth's news feeds," Voltara said softly. "I learned about human ambassadors and diplomats. When I saw you had left climate research to join the diplomatic corps, I wondered if our time together had influenced that choice." Marcus nodded slowly. "It did. You taught me that different species could understand each other if they tried. I wanted to help make that understanding official." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of 5 years between them. "Why didn't you tell me yesterday who you were?" Marcus asked. "Because I was afraid," Voltara admitted. Afraid that you hated me for leaving. Afraid that you had forgotten me. Afraid that knowing the truth would make these negotiations impossible. Marcus reached across the table and gently touched her hand. Her skin was warm and smooth, just as he remembered. I never forgot you, he said. Not for a single day. Veltara's eyes grew brighter, and her skin shifted to the warm gold color he remembered meant happiness. There's something else, she said quietly. Something I should have told you 5 years ago, but I was afraid. Afraid of what it would mean for both our worlds. What? Before she could answer, the dining room door burst open. Torvas rushed in, his skin flashing urgent red patterns. Your Majesty, forgive the interruption, but there's been an incident in the family wing. The young prince has escaped his guardians again. Veltara stood quickly, her regal composure sliding back into place. Find him immediately. Check the gardens first. He likes to hide among the singing flowers. As Torvas hurried away, Marcus noticed the queen's hands were shaking slightly. Is everything all right? He asked. Veltara looked at him with an expression full of pain and hope and fear all mixed together. Everything, she said quietly, is about to change. 5 years earlier, Marcus had been living alone at Research Station Alpha 7, high in the Colorado Rockies. The isolation didn't bother him much. He had his work studying weather patterns, his books, and the endless peace of the mountains. Sarah had left 6 months before to take a position on Kepler Colony, and Marcus was still learning how to be alone. Again, the morning he found the crash ship changed everything. He had been taking measurements. In the valley below the station, when he saw the metallic glint among the trees. The vessel was small, clearly not human in design, and badly damaged. Steam rose from cracked hull plates, and strange symbols flickered weakly on what might have been a control panel. Marcus approached carefully. First contact protocols said he should report any alien vessels immediately, but something made him hesitate. The ship looked more broken than dangerous, and winter storms had cut communication lines to the outside. Whirled 3 days ago. A soft groan came from inside the ship. Marcus found her in what looked like a medical bay, unconscious and bleeding blue fluid from a gash on her forehead. She was clearly alien tall, with shimmering skin and large compound eyes, but she was also clearly hurt and alone. He made a choice that would change his life. Getting her back to the research station took most of the day. She was heavier than she looked, and the mountain path was treacherous with ice. Marcus set her up in the station's small medical room and did what he could with human first aid supplies. She woke up 3 days later. Where am I? Were her first words, spoken in perfect English with a musical accent. My research station, Marcus told her, offering a cup of warm broth. Your ship crashed in the valley. I brought you here. She tried to sit up quickly and winced in pain. You should not have done that. If your authorities find me, they won't, Marcus said. We're snowed in for at least another month. The communication array is down, and no one comes up here during winter storms anyway. She studied him with those large alien eyes. Why would you help someone like me? Marcus shrugged. Because you needed help. That's what people do. She told him her name was Vera, and that she was a scout for her people. She didn't mention which people or where she came from, and Marcus didn't push. Over the following days, as she recovered, they fell into an easy routine. Marcus would work on his research in the mornings while Vera rested. In the evenings, they would sit by the fire and talk. She was endlessly curious about human customs and emotions. She asked about everything from birthday celebrations to why humans kept pictures of dead relatives. On my world, she explained one night, we share memories directly through mental connection. We don't need physical reminders of the past. But what about when you're alone? Marcus asked. What about when you want to remember someone who isn't there to share their thoughts? Vera looked puzzled. We are rarely alone. Our minds are always connected to the community network. That sounds overwhelming, Marcus admitted. Sometimes being alone with your thoughts is peaceful. Peaceful, she repeated, as if trying to understand the concept. You find solace in isolation? Not always, but sometimes. Like now, talking with you by the fire. It's peaceful. Something in her expression softened. Yes, she said quietly. I think I understand. As the weeks passed, Marcus learned that Vera was more than just curious about human emotions. She was hungry for them. She watched with fascination when Marcus laughed at something on the radio. She asked detailed questions when he explained why certain music made him sad. She seemed amazed by the concept of crying. You release water from your eyes when you feel strong emotion? She asked one day after Marcus had gotten teary-eyed watching an old movie. It's not something we control, Marcus explained. Sometimes feelings are just too big to keep inside. Vera reached up and gently touched the corner of her own eye. I think I would like to experience that, she said. On the night Marcus realized he was falling in love with her, a massive blizzard hit the mountain. The wind howled around the station and the power flickered. Marcus found Vera standing by the window, watching the storm with wide eyes. Are you afraid? He asked. No, she said. It's beautiful. All that power and chaos, but you built this shelter to keep us safe and warm. She turned to him. This is what you meant about home, isn't it? Not just a place, but a feeling of safety with someone you care about. Marcus stepped closer to her. Yes, exactly like that. When she kissed him, her lips were warm despite her cool skin. The kiss tasted like starlight and possibility. They spent the next month learning about each other in ways that went beyond words. Vera was amazed by physical affection, how humans showed love through touch and presence rather than mental connection. Marcus discovered that despite her alien appearance, her emotions ran as deep as any human's. She told him about her real life gradually. She was not just a scout, but someone important in her people's government. Her real name was Veltara, and she had responsibilities that reached across star systems. When spring comes, she said one night as they lay together listening to the wind, I will have to leave. I know, Marcus said, though the words felt like swallowing glass. And you cannot come with me. My people would never accept a human in our court, and your people would see you as a traitor for disappearing with an alien. I know that too. Veltara traced patterns on his chest with her finger. In my culture, we have a saying, love is the one bond that cannot be shared through telepathy. I never understood it until now. What does it mean? It means that love can only be experienced, never explained or transmitted. It exists only between the two people who feel it. Marcus kissed the top of her head. Then we'll have to make the most of the time we have. Neither of them knew that Veltara was already pregnant. Zephyrian pregnancies were different from human ones. There were no obvious early signs, and Veltara's biology was so different from human that neither of them would have recognized the symptoms anyway. It wasn't until weeks later, after the rescue ship had come and taken her away, that Veltara learned the truth. She had been back on Zephyros for 3 months, when the palace doctors confirmed what she had begun to suspect. The child growing inside her was an impossible hybrid, part human, part Zephyrian. The first of its kind. The doctors said the pregnancy was dangerous and urged termination. Her advisor said a half-human child would be a scandal that could destabilize the empire. The nobility would never accept a bastard heir with alien blood. But Veltara remembered Marcus's words about parents protecting their children. She remembered human tears and the way love could exist between just two people, shared with no one else. She made another choice that would change everything. She told everyone the child was the result of a brief liaison with a Zephyrian nobleman who had died in an accident. She endured the pregnancy in secret, surrounded by doctors sworn to silence. When Kalon was born with his father's brown eyes and his mother's shimmering skin, Veltara knew she could never let Marcus go completely. She had created something impossible, a bridge between two worlds, born of a love that shouldn't have existed. But she also knew that revealing the truth could destroy the fragile peace between their species. So she raised Kalon alone, telling him stories about his father's world while teaching him to hide his human traits in public. She watched Earth's news and followed Marcus's career from a distance. And she waited for the day when fate might give her a chance to make things right. That day had finally come. The grand ceremony hall of the Zephyrian Palace had been prepared for the most important diplomatic event in decades. Representatives from both Earth and Zephyros filled the enormous space, their voices creating a low hum of conversation in multiple languages. Crystal pillars stretched up to a domed ceiling that showed a perfect view of the stars, and the air shimmered with the formal energy of historic moment. Marcus stood at the central podium, wearing his best diplomatic uniform and carrying the official treaty documents in an ornate case. Across from him, Queen Veltara sat on her floating throne, surrounded by the highest nobles of Zephyrian society. She wore ceremonial robes that seemed to be made of liquid starlight, and her crown projected holographic symbols of peace and unity. 3 days had passed since their private dinner and the interrupted conversation about the young prince. Marcus had barely seen Veltara except in formal settings since then. He had tried to approach her about finishing their discussion, but palace protocol kept them separated by walls of advisors and ceremony preparations. Now, finally, they were about to sign a peace treaty that would end years of trade disputes and open a new chapter of cooperation between their species. Citizens of Zephyros and representatives of Earth, Queen Veltara announced, her voice carrying clearly through the hall's acoustics. Today we write history together. This treaty represents not just the end of conflict, but the beginning of understanding between our peoples. Marcus stepped forward with the treaty documents. Your Majesty, on behalf of the United Earth Government, I present these accords for your signature. May they bring prosperity and peace to both our worlds. The crowd fell silent as the formal signing began. Marcus placed his signature on the documents with careful precision, then offered them to the Queen. As Veltara raised her crystalline stylus to sign, a commotion began near one of the side entrances to the hall. No, young master, you must stay, a voice called out in the Zephyrian language. A small figure broke free from a group of palace staff and began running across the massive hall. The crowd turned to stare as a child, perhaps 4 or 5 years old, sprinted between the formal rows of seated dignitaries. Marcus looked up from the signing table and felt his breath catch. The child was clearly Zephyrian. His skin had the characteristic shimmer, shifting between silver and pale gold as he ran. But his features were different from other Zephyrians. His face was rounder, more human-like, and his eyes were brown. Deep, familiar brown. The child ran straight toward the central podium where Marcus stood. Palace guards started to move to intercept him, but Queen Veltara raised her hand sharply, stopping them. Father, the boy shouted in clear English as he reached the podium. Father, I found you. The word echoed through the silent hall like thunder. Marcus stared down at the child, his mind reeling. The boy's face was a perfect blend of human and Zephyrian features. He had Veltara's elegant bone structure and shimmering skin, but Marcus's brown eyes and the shape of his nose. When he smiled, it was Marcus's own smile looking back at him. Father, why did you take so long to come home? The child asked, reaching up to grab Marcus's hand with small fingers that felt warm and familiar. The entire assembly was frozen in shock. Marcus could hear his own heartbeat in the sudden silence. Even the Zephyrian nobles, who normally maintained perfect composure, were staring with their compound eyes wide and their skin flickering with colors that indicated extreme surprise, Queen Veltara slowly rose from her throne. Her face was a mask of dignity, but Marcus could see pain and fear in her eyes. "Callan," she said quietly, "you were supposed to stay in your rooms." The child Callan turned to his mother but didn't let go of Marcus's hand. "But mother, you said father was here. You said he came from the star where I was born. I wanted to meet him." A wave of whispers swept through the crowd. Marcus heard fragments of conversation in multiple languages, all expressing the same disbelief. Impossible. A hybrid child. Human and Zephyrian. How could this be? Marcus knelt down to bring himself to Callan's eye level. The boy studied his face with intense curiosity, reaching up to touch Marcus's cheek. "You look just like Mother said you would," Callan said. "She has pictures of you in her private rooms. She told me you lived on a world covered in white snow, and that you taught her about crying and laughing." Marcus looked up at Veltara, who had gone very still. Around them, the diplomatic assembly was erupting in shocked conversations. Earth's representatives were staring in amazement, while Zephyrian nobles whispered urgently among themselves. "Is it true?" Marcus asked Veltara, though he already knew the answer. The child's face was proof enough. Veltara stepped down from her throne and walked toward them with measured, regal steps. But Marcus could see her hand shaking. "Citizens of Zephyros," she announced, her voice cutting through the noise, "I present my son, Prince Callan. And yes, what you see is real. He's the child of two worlds." The hall erupted. Voices raised in questions, protests, and amazement. Some Earth representatives cheered, while others looked stunned. The Zephyrian nobles were in chaos, some standing and calling for order, others sitting in shocked silence. "How is this possible?" demanded High Counselor Zektar, one of Veltara's oldest advisors. "The biological differences between our species. Love finds a way," Veltara said simply, looking directly at Marcus. 5 years ago, I was stranded on Earth. Ambassador Chun saved my life and showed me what it meant to feel truly connected to another being. When I left, I didn't know I carried this gift with me. Marcus stood slowly, still holding Callan's hand. "You didn't tell me," he said quietly. "I was afraid," Veltara admitted. "Afraid that knowing would force you to choose between your duty to Earth and your responsibility to us. Afraid that our peoples weren't ready for the truth. But I'm ready now," Callan announced loudly, making several diplomats chuckle despite the tension. "I want to learn about Earth and humans in snow and crying. Mother says humans hug instead of mind-sharing. Can you show me how?" Marcus looked into his son's eager brown eyes and felt something break open in his chest. Without hesitation, he swept Callan up in his arms, holding him tight. The boy laughed with delight and hugged him back. "Like this?" Callan asked. "Exactly like this," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. Around them, the crowd slowly fell silent again. Watching this impossible moment, Abasa, human diplomat holding his half-alien son, while the queen of an empire watched with tears that sparkled, like diamonds on her shimmering cheeks. "Your Majesty," said Ambassador Reynolds, the head of Earth's delegation, stepping forward carefully. "This changes everything. If such a union is possible, it changes everything," Veltara agreed. "This child is proof that our species are not as different as we believed. He carries the best of both worlds, human emotional capacity and Zephyrian mental abilities. He could be the beginning of a new kind of cooperation between our peoples." Marcus looked around the hall at the faces of representatives from both species. He saw wonder, fear, hope, and confusion all mixed together. "The treaty we came here to sign," he said, still holding Callan, was about ending conflict. But maybe what we're really signing is the beginning of something much bigger. The first step toward a future where children like Callan don't have to hide who they are. Queen Veltara stepped closer. Close enough that Marcus could see the hope shining in her large eyes. "Marcus," she said softly, "will you help me raise him? Will you help me build the bridge he represents?" Marcus looked down at Kalan, who was watching both his parents with bright curiosity. Then he looked back at Veltara, the woman he had never stopped loving. "Yes," he said. "Let's build a new world for him." The weeks following the revelation in the treaty ceremony were unlike anything in the recorded history of either species. News of Prince Kalan spread across both Earth and Zephyros faster than light-speed communications could carry it. Scientists, philosophers, and ordinary citizens debated what it meant for a human and Zephyrian to have a child together. Marcus found himself at the center of a storm of attention he never wanted. Earth's media called him everything from the galaxy's most important father to the man who proved love conquers all biological barriers. Zephyrian. Scholars wanted to study him to understand how human emotions had influenced their queen. Everyone seemed to have an opinion about his relationship with Veltara and what it meant for the future. But through all the chaos, Marcus focused on the most important thing, getting to know his son. Kalan was unlike any child Marcus had ever met. He had his mother's intelligence and grace, but also a very human curiosity about everything around him. He asked endless questions about Earth customs, human games, and why people laughed at jokes. He was also telepathically gifted like other Zephyrians, but his mental abilities were tempered by human emotional understanding. "Watch this, Father," Kalan said one morning as they walked through the palace gardens. He approached a group of young Zephyrian nobles who were playing a mental strategy game. Instead of joining their telepathic connection directly, Kalan spoke out loud. "That's a really clever move, Zixtal," he told one of the children. "But you look sad about something else. Do you want to talk about it?" The other children stopped their game in surprise. Zixtal, a boy about Kalan's age, looked confused. "How did you know I was sad?" he asked. "I didn't project that feeling. Humans can tell by looking at faces and body language," Kalan explained. "Father taught me. Your eyes look down when you're sad, and your shoulders get tight." Marcus watched as his son patiently explained emotional recognition to children who had never needed to learn such skills. Within minutes, Zixtal was talking about missing his father who was away on a diplomatic mission, and the other children were listening with genuine interest instead of just sharing mental connections. "He's teaching them something new," Veltara said, appearing beside Marcus on the garden path. "Empathy is observation rather than telepathy." Marcus smiled as he watched Kalan show the Zephyrian children how to play a simple human card game. "He's building bridges already, just like you said he would." The formal political implications were still being worked out. The original trade treaty had been signed, but now both governments were discussing much larger questions. If humans and Zephyrians could have children together, what did that mean for immigration policies? For citizenship? For the future of both species? The High Council wants to establish an exchange program, Veltara told Marcus as they walked deeper into the gardens. Young humans would come to Zephyros to learn about our culture, and young Zephyrians would visit Earth. They're calling it the Kalan Initiative. And what do you think about that? Marcus asked. "I think our son has accidentally started a revolution," Veltara said with a smile that was becoming more human-like every day. The council members who were most opposed to closer ties with Earth have been watching him interact with their grandchildren. It's hard to argue against cooperation when you see it working so beautifully in person. They stopped beside a fountain where crystal formations created music as water flowed through them. Marcus had grown to love these small moments of peace between the constant meetings and ceremonies. "Veltara," he said, "there's something I need to ask you." She turned to face him. her large eyes reflecting the garden's blue sunlight. Earth's diplomatic corps has offered me a permanent position here, Marcus continued. Ambassador to Zephyros, with a mandate to develop the new cultural exchange programs. It would mean staying here, with you and Kellan. Veltara's skin shifted to a warm gold color. And what did you tell them? I said yes, if you'll have me. Not just as a diplomat, but as... He paused, searching for the right words. I want to be part of this family, officially. I want to help raise our son and build the future he represents. Veltara stepped closer to him. Marcus, are you asking what I think you're asking? I'm asking if you'll marry me, Marcus said simply. I know it would be the first marriage between our species. I know it would cause political complications. But I love you, and I love Kellan, and I want us to be a real family. Veltara's eyes grew brighter, and Marcus realized she was crying, not the telepathic sharing of emotion that Zephyrians normally used, but actual tears like humans shed. Yes, she whispered. Yes to all of it. Marcus kissed her there beside the singing fountain, and for a moment, the entire complex political situation faded away. They were just two people who had found each other across the stars and were choosing to build a life together. Father. Mother! Callan's voice called from across the garden. Come see this. They turned to find their son standing with a group of both human and Zephyrian children, who had apparently arrived for some kind of cultural exchange visit. Kellan was in the middle of teaching them all to play a game that seemed to combine elements of both human tag and Zephyrian mental coordination. I invented a new game, Kellan announced proudly. You have to run and catch each other like humans, but also share thoughts like Zephyrians. Everyone can play together. Marcus watched as children from two different worlds laughed and ran around the garden together, their differences becoming strengths rather than barriers. Human creativity combined with Zephyrian mental coordination. Earth's emotional expressiveness balanced with Zephyrian wisdom. Look at them, Veltara said softly. They don't see problems to overcome. They just see friends to play with. Maybe that's the answer, Marcus said. Maybe the future isn't about one species learning to be like the other. Maybe it's about creating something entirely new together. 6 months later, Marcus and Veltara were married in a ceremony that was broadcast across both worlds. Kellan served as ring-bearer, solemnly carrying the traditional Earth wedding bands and the Zephyrian bonding crystals. The wedding itself was a blend of both cultures, human vows of love and commitment combined with Zephyrian rituals of mental harmony. The ceremony ended with something that had never been seen before. A human and Zephyrian family portrait. Marcus in his diplomatic dress uniform, Veltara in robes that shifted colors like sunrise, and Kellan between them, grinning with a smile that belonged to both worlds. But the moment Marcus treasured most came after all the ceremonies were over. He found Kellan in the palace library, curled up with a book of Earth fairy tales in one hand and a Zephyrian crystal that projected historical memories in the other. Which story do you like better? Marcus asked, settling down beside his son. Kellan looked up at him with those familiar brown eyes that held depths of wisdom beyond his years. I like them both, father, he said. But I like our story best of all. Marcus hugged his son close and looked out the library window at the stars that no longer seemed like barriers between worlds, but like pathways to infinite possibilities. In the years that followed, Kellan grew up to become the first ambassador born of two worlds, helping to establish colonies where humans and Zephyrians worked together as partners rather than competitors. The exchange programs he had inspired as a child became permanent institutions. The hybrid abilities he possessed, human emotional intelligence combined with Zephyrian mental gifts, proved to be perfect for diplomacy and cooperation. But on quiet evenings, when the political implications and historical significance faded away, he was simply a boy playing catch with his human father while his Zephyrian mother watched and learned that some of the most important communications happened without any telepathy at all. B. Universe had become a smaller, warmer place, one family at a time.